When people come to a magical path or spiritual path, well, particularly like witchcraft, magic, things like that, there's a lot of preconceptions that often come with a person, and these are programmed into them from a very, very early age. So in order to be free of these instilled concepts, then we need to actually just examine ourselves and what we believe in. And so this video today is actually about deprogramming, which is nothing blasphemous, but I think for a person actually practicing a magical path, it is actually necessary to be free of those things. So let's get into that. Hello good people, it's very stormy outside today, which is why it's kind of dark, but I love it. It's been very hot here in South Africa, so this is absolutely fantastic, but you'll probably hear the thunder in the background. Sort of apt with this video, I suppose. So when it comes to deprogramming ourselves, it is kind of necessary, because when we come across certain concepts, we probably force ourselves to stay away from them because we think they are evil. Now you've probably heard of the whole thing of there is no black and white, there is only magic, or there is no, good or evil, there's only balance, you have to find equilibrium, and it's very true. But there's sort of two sides, or two parts to this process. The first is people who are coming directly from a culture or a religion which views witchcraft as evil, for instance. And you don't need to be of a Christian family or a Catholic family or anything like that. It could just be just normal Western upbringing. It's everywhere. It's not just doesn't come from our parents. It comes from schools, from our teachers, from TV, from magazines. It's all around us. We get programmed to follow certain routes and certain things. But on the other scale, or other part of this, is that people who have been practicing witchcraft for some time will still have particular concepts that they are still programmed with. And this comes again in two ways. One is that they think that something is evil. For instance, black magic, Satan, Lucifer, the devil, all of these things they consider to be evil. But at the same time, people who have accepted these things into their life, into their magic life, will go on the complete opposite side, and they'll start defending them. So if somebody says that Satan is this, or Lucifer is this, or whatever, then they'll start defending it. And that's sort of the complete opposite. It's still not bringing that balance or equilibrium into our lives. So deprogramming becomes very important, and it's a lengthy process. It can take years and years and years. It did for me. I didn't come from a religious family. My parents did not go to church. They believed in God and Jesus and what have you, but it was never instilled in us or anything like that. Yet I came from a Western society where those things are instilled. I also my latest teens, 16, 17, 18, I did get involved in the church quite considerably. I was actually ready to move down, or finish school and move down to Durban and go to Bible school and become a minister. So yes, I do have that whole background. Funny enough, my two callings in the church were healing and demonology. So even though I left the church, I still continued with that anyway, just on a different footing, I suppose. God obviously had a different plan for me. But now, what I want you to do quickly is just close your eyes, and I'm going to say a few things, and just try and think about or feel, see how it feels for you. So just close your eyes. Satan, Lucifer, the devil, Pan, left-hand path, black magic, chaos magic. Okay, open your eyes. Now, all of these things, they can create certain emotional responses in us. I'll tell you a bit of story about myself. Okay, so I started out in witchcraft, but it wasn't necessarily Wicca per se. It was also more traditional witchcraft, but not the primal craft. Very light stuff. And for the first couple of years, probably, I'd read something about chaos magic, left-hand path, black magic, Satan, the devil, blah, 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 blah. And I got onto the whole bandwagon of, there is no hell in our religion, of our following our tradition, so therefore there is no Satan, there is no devil, which is absolute trash, but anyway. So I used to think all of these things were evil. And then one day I was thinking to myself, okay, so we've got Christian folk who look at me saying that I am a witch and I follow witchcraft and I practice witchcraft, and they consider me to be evil. And yet I know that what I do is not evil. It is very nature-based. It's about talking to gods and goddesses, and particularly connecting with my own roots from England. But definitely not evil. So I was thinking to myself, okay, if that's the case, then I keep getting led down this path by other people that Satanism is evil. So I started questioning that. Is it really? What is it really about? Because coming from that Christian background, looking at witchcraft, and on the surface level and what people tell you and what people feed you, sort of portrays this concept, and you go into witchcraft thinking that these things are evil, and it's exciting at first because now you're doing something naughty. But then you start to figure out that it's not. It's got nothing to do with what all these people were talking about. So I went and sought out Satanism, and I joined the Yahoo group for the First Church of Satan, which was then run by John Ali and his wife Lily. He was originally called Lord Egan when he was with the Church of Satan. And I watched. I lurked in the background, and these people were fantastic. They were marvelous. They were just such kind, gentle people. And then I started getting involved in conversations, and I was accepted in, straight away. It wasn't like a question of, you're here to destroy us, or, we're going to do this against the church or that, and blah, 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 and therefore you're spying on us. There was nothing like that. That's absolutely ridiculous. Look, I will say there are some groups, there are some people out there who have this whole concept of Satanism and left-hand path and black magic, who kind of get a bit wrapped up too much in the whole Hollywood theme of it. And they practice crap. So, I came to understand that these things are not evil. That's why, from that point, I actually decided that it doesn't matter what it is and what people are telling me, I'm going to have to find out for myself, because I can't rely on what the information that people are feeding me, because that comes from a preconceived notion which is probably wrong. It's what I've experienced right through my life so far, is that all the information that people feed you is probably wrong. Therefore, find out for yourself. delve deep into the topic and really get to the root of it and find out what it's actually about. Oh, the storm's passing. That's such a pity. Anyway, so when it comes to actually deprogramming, as I say, there are particular levels. There is your person who's starting out right from the beginning, and it's not going to be an instant thing. I mean, Paul Hudson in Mastering Witchcraft, and it's not just there. There's a lot of groups, covens and such that actually make this a requirement for people who are coming directly from some kind of background that is Christianized. But it is in Paul Hudson's book, Mastering Witchcraft, where it mentions actually saying the Lord's Prayer backwards. Now, this is not blasphemous. It is not meant to be blasphemous. It is not meant to be something against the church or to undermine the church or God or Jesus or Christianity or anything like that. This is purely a deprogramming mechanism. So if you can say the Lord's Prayer backwards without feeling guilty, then you're okay. Move forward. But if you do say the Lord's Prayer backwards and you feel guilty, you feel like you're being blasphemous or anything like that, then you still have that ingrained programming. And therefore you just continue doing it until it becomes nothing. It becomes, just whatever. But this is all a deprogramming mechanism. It's not, as I say, it's not blasphemous or anything like that. I still believe in God. I still think Jesus is a fantastic guy. He was probably the original magician, actually. Jesus was actually an antinomianist, and in many regards back then could have been considered a left-hand pather. He went against the religion, he went against society, he went against everything. And that's very much what a left-hand path person is, or left-hand path practitioner. So, you've got to consider that people take concepts and they just add their own interpretations to them. So you really got to just delve into the roots of it and just understand it. But when it comes to things like Satan and the devil, let's start with Lucifer. I mean, Lucifer is the light bringer and the light bearer. And quite frankly, I find absolutely nothing sinister, evil about Lucifer at all. To most people, Lucifer appears as a masculine figure. For me, originally, was a masculine figure, but has become a feminine figure. Lucifer's the ultimate shapeshifter, so that's probably why, but just, I don't know why, just it's decided to appear to me as a feminine figure with horns and a flame between the horns. But sinister, evil, I can't find anything. Even if you start talking about the darkness and black magic, and I don't find anything evil about it. Maybe once I used to. But I think that's all come out of me now. There's absolutely... Darkness is fantastic. Darkness is the only place where you're going to find wisdom, because it's the only place where you're going to see the light. So if you don't delve and reach into the darkness, you're going to just stay floating around the top surface, and that's about it. But if you really want the primal craft, the primal substance of life and the cosmos, you've got to go into the darkness. There's no doubt about it. But now this whole thing of, Wiccans believing that the devil doesn't exist and it doesn't belong in their craft and things like that. Okay, maybe Satan's a different aspect, but then again it's not. So let's have a look at the devil concept. The devil is merely the horn god that was given an alternate name to Christians. So it was therefore portrayed as something evil. It was portrayed as satanic. It was portrayed as the adversary. But the horn god exists in Wicca. The horn god exists in witchcraft. So just because, if you don't want to call it the devil, just because it therefore portrays this evil aspect of your path, then you're still programmed. You haven't freed yourself from that whole concept because you are too afraid of what people are going to think about you. If we look at Satan, I mean, Satan is an epithet. It means that the word itself, shaitan, means the adversary. And in every tradition there is an adversary. Loki's obviously is probably the most well-known in the Western society, especially with all the movies that have been out. He's the trickster. The trickster is an extremely important aspect of witchcraft, of Wicca, of magical paths in general, of shamanism. If the trickster wasn't around in shamanism, we wouldn't have any shamans. So, just because it's the word Satan or it's the word devil, you've got to accept it. Otherwise, you are still programmed and you are not free from these concepts. And if you're not free from these concepts, you limit yourself in your explorations. So, I'm not saying become a Satanist or become a demonologist or demonolator. But, it's just about accepting that balance. Until you can become free of those preconcepts, you're going to be out of balance. Because you're still thinking, okay, well, this is evil, this is black. So you've got to bring it into balance. But even balance doesn't mean that you are in equilibrium. Equilibrium means that you have both of them together. There is no separation of the black and white, the evil and the good, the masculine and the feminine. It is one. That's when you have equilibrium. If you're still on two scales, then it easily shifts and shifts and shifts and shifts. And this is not equilibrium. It might be balance, but it's not equilibrium. It's not unity. It's not union. And I think the main concept in every single path and every single tradition is union. Union with the divine, union with the All-Father, union with the goddess of witchcraft, union with that which is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. Actually, that's one conversation I love to have with Christian people. It usually starts off with me saying, so God is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and therefore he created everything and there is no other creator other than God. Is that correct? And it will be an emphatic yes. Praise God, praise the Lord, praise Jesus. And then I will say, in that case, God created Satan. And therefore, it usually ends up becoming a very skillful topic change, or some blabbering about no, this is that, and Satan created himself. How can he create himself if God is the only creator? So anyway, and it doesn't mean God is this good and evil figure. God is the equilibrium, the union. He's everything and all. But when it comes to the Christian God, and I mean no disrespect to Christians, I have Christian friends, and they are fantastic people. So I don't mean any disrespect to Christians or any religion in general. But when it comes to the Christian God, one of my teachers used to always say that God created man in his own image, and man was so flattered that he returned the favour. So the Christian God is actually a thought form. It's the most powerful, biggest, strongest egregore that we have in our society today. But it is the Christian God. It is not the Hebrew God. When it comes to the Hebrew God in Kabbalah, then God is understood as being everything and nothing, and it is everything and nothing. So it is everything that we can understand, that we can have knowledge of, that we can I wouldn't even say touch, because it also extends into the spiritual realm. Ghosts, gods, spirits, nature spirits, everything that we can have a concept of is everything. And then everything between that is nothing. In Nagualism, Toltec warrior path, we speak of the tonal and the Nagual. So the tonal is kind of like an island where everything that we can realize, that we can understand, that we can put a concept to, that is the tonal. So it's like a little island. And then extending from that is a eternal, never-ending sea. And that's everything we can't actually conceive, we can't put a thought to, we can't explain, we can't understand. And that is the Nagual. So when it comes to deprogramming, then, as I say, it doesn't come overnight. It's gonna take years and years to actually completely deprogram. You were instilled with these things and programmed from the time you were born. And up to the age of 6 or 7, I think it is, you are very influential. So at that stage, that programming gets instilled and ingrained so deeply that to actually try and release it completely takes a long, long time, and it's a long process. So just take it bit by bit. But once you get to that point, you'll understand that, you are free from it all. And the process usually is to start becoming free of those preconceived notions, understanding that they are probably and utterly false. And then you're probably going to swing to the other side, and you're going to start defending it vehemently. You're going to attack people who attack these concepts. But then eventually you come round to this complete whole. And there is no difference. There is still black and white. There is still good and evil. But there's purposes to it. When it comes to evil and good concepts, healing can be used to hurt, and a curse can be used to heal. If you're a bit confused with that, something I did years back was actually use a curse to attack cancer cells and kill the cancer cells in order to heal a person. So I think you can see how this whole concept of using black magic is not necessarily about evil intent or malicious intent or anything like that. And using white magic, same thing. I once had some witches, some white witches, as they proclaim themselves to be light workers, telling me that they're going to pray for me. And I said, please don't, because that's evil. I didn't ask you to pray for me, and what you're doing is actually trying to work against my own will. And therefore you are not practicing white magic at all in their concept of what white magic and black magic is. So, it's really about not following the crowd, not following or not being a sheep in the flock. If you came from a Christian background, you came from a sheep mentality, and you just therefore going back into a sheep mentality. The craft is about thinking for yourself, about creating your own path, your own tradition, your own concepts, thinking for yourself. So, if somebody tells you something and they say, this is how it is, and don't believe them. Explore, find out for yourself. I'm going to leave you with that anyway. So I will... Yes, it's Tuesday, so I'll see you on Friday. Have a great week, and chat to you then. Cheers.